You're with Karen on Accentuate the Positive Radio. I hope you're having a great morning. Coming up is a fantastic interview chat that Jane Arakawa from Thursday's Long Way Home and I had with the wonderful Richard Bach, author, pilot, spiritual mentor communicator. He is just so wonderful. And I have to say that Jane had a big dream to chat to Richard, and so she's a wealth of knowledge about Richard. So I'll let Jane, in her own words, tell you who Richard Bach is and what he's written. Tell us all about him, Jane.
Where do I start? I think we'll let Richard Bach tell most of his own story in his own words. But basically, Richard Bach is an author. He's a pilot. He's an amazing communicator. He is a person that speaks from his own spiritual self of understanding, I guess you would say. I first came in contact with Richard Bach through the loss of a very dear young teenage boy. He was hit by a car, and a friend lent me one of Richard Bach's book, which was A Bridge Across Forever, and also the book One. And it spoke about the physical lifetime and how we connect with each other. And my pain and it was excruciating pain at the loss of this young man that actually brought me to read Richard Bach's, and that gentleness of his words spoke to my soul, and the way he communicated in his books. And these are just a couple of the books. I guess many people would be familiar with Richard Bach's book, Jonathan Livingston's Seagull, and that, of course, was made into the movie as well. Well, these are just a couple of his books. He has written the book Illusions, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. He has written books on aeroplanes. He has written books on A Gift of Wings, There's No Such Place as Far Away, as I mentioned before, A Bridge Across Forever, a love story. He's also written a fantastic selection of books called The Ferret Chronicles, which are little 5 novellas about these gorgeous little animals, ferrets, and some of the adventures that they go on. And in the interview that we will hear Richard Bach talk a little more about that. So you can find out more about Richard Bach yourself on richardbach.com. That's richardbach, BACH.com.
How are you? You're with Karen from Accentuate the Positive, and I have Jane Arakawa with me, and we have a very special guest on the phone, author, pilot, and don't call him guru, Richard Bach. How are you, Richard?
Oh, don't call me guru. I'm not going to answer if you call me guru.
Okay, I won't call you guru.
Okay, I have acute guruphobia, yeah.
Guruphobia. No, he's inspired both Jane and I. You're a fabulous author. I read your books years ago when I was on an intense search for meaning to my life, and they meant so much to me. It was the sort of book that you read and you think that you're reading your own thoughts. That's what I found when I read your books. I thought, this man's reading my mind. This is what I would think, and this is what I would say, and these are the questions that I would ask. And that's really a great book when you're reading a book like that.
Oh, thank you.
Richard, your most recent work, Thank Your Wicked Parents. This is a book that's about to be released this month in the US. How did this book particularly come about?
Boy, that's a good question. It's something that touched me as I got to know a few people. I'm pretty much of a recluse, and I don't know very many people, but along the course of my life, I've touched a lot of other lives, and I've been astounded at the number of people who have had really difficult childhoods. Parents who were verbally abusive or physically abusive, and why would you choose a lifetime in which all these terrible things happen? And there's a reason for it. And out of that wondering, I saw a few reasons. And I saw in the people that I met how they had overcome and how they had used these extremely difficult childhoods to perfect their own humanity as adults.
Absolutely.
And I looked around and said, has anyone ever written down the distillation of your understanding from these terrible times? And as far as I could tell, nobody had. They would be inferred in other books, but there was never a book of just little maxims of what was actually the principles that came from these difficult times and how these wonderful people had used them to surmount these difficulties. And so I said, well, okay, I'll just set them down. It's just a little bit of a book. It has absolutely wonderful learning that other people have done that I've just written down.
And been able to share it. And I guess that how could you relate then to the prayers of gratitude that are obviously contained in this book? It's not available here in Australia yet, but we're looking forward to being able to read it.
Yeah.
The subtitle is Blessings from a Difference. So the blessings, how are the blessings expressed in it?
I think prayers are not supplications to me. They're not asking some spirit or force to do something. Prayers are recognition that we already have everything that we need. And so these very short little prayers open with, thank you for ignoring my gifts and talents, because that allowed me to recognize that I do have those gifts and talents, and to work with them, to develop them, and to shine my light forth on the world. And had you given me some kind of half-hearted approval, I never would have found the fierce resolve that in spite of you, I will choose to be a marvelous artist or writer or dancer or business person or sailboat master or whatever.
Absolutely.
That sometimes when people push against us so hard, it's just a spur to us. Something clicks, and we say, in spite of you, world, in spite of you, parents, I will walk my path.
Absolutely.
And when people do that, then it's an inspiration to all the rest of us.
Did something like that happen when you were a child? Did something spur you to write down your thoughts and your inspirations and then to inspire millions of others?
Not as a child. As a child, I always felt that that my family was cruising through space, landed their saucer on this little blue planet to have a picnic. I wandered off into the woods, and they weren't particularly concerned. They knew I could take care of myself, so they left. And I've been looking for my family ever since. Then I've discovered over the years that a lot of people have the same feeling, that there is a family of us who feel, did I really choose this planet? Did I really choose this culture? Did I choose this species that we seem to be, that on the surface has so much wickedness and so much violence and so much hatred and so much putting down? I don't think so. And I think the fact is that all around the world there is this family of us who yearn to find each other.
Oh, absolutely.
And now, particularly now in this high-tech age that we live in, more and more that's happening. And I see it online, on my website, the people who are intrigued with some of these values and some of these ideas somehow by coincidence, find this little place, and they call themselves a family.
Yeah.
And they're from all around the world. In fact, the language next spoken on the website after English is Russian. It is startling that somehow these ideas make a tremendous amount of sense to a lot of people who live in Russia and the former Soviet Union.
Really? Oh.
There's very much this sense of worldwide family, and now with such things as Google Translator, it doesn't matter what language they write in. It comes up in Cyrillic alphabet. You just copy it and paste it in the translator, and all of a sudden there's ideas that we share too, and the same yearning for connecting with someone else who has our values.
Absolutely. It's exciting, isn't it, Richard? Don't you find it really exciting?
It is. It is, and it's something that I don't know if it could have happened 50 years ago.
No.
It is so much a creature of our instant worldwide communication.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we're saying, well, I can throw some kind of little marker out there in the current swirling around my island. I can throw my message in a bottle electronically. And sure enough, all of a sudden, we're getting messages back from everywhere. And people who are friends whom we've never met in person, because they share beliefs that this world is so much more than it seems to be, and that all this world is in fact a stage, and we are actors and playing our roles and learning and discovering why we've entered the play, why we chose this part, and what is the gift that we give to ourselves, who are the audience as well as actors, what do we give to ourselves as we walk through this play? What do we learn? What do we discover about what's real instead of the fakery of the stage props and the sets?
Never better said than by Shakespeare, all the world's a stage. So,
Absolutely. And Richard, you're back on your website, richardbach.com. Was there a reason that you went offline quite a number of years ago but have, I guess, returned to the online community once again?
Well, sure. The same kid who felt that he was dropped off on this planet without really his consent has had this yearning all my life long. So in the late 90s, when CompuServe was up, I tried that, and there were a number of people who were attracted to it. Mm-hmm. And then there was devolved in a kind of clash of personalities, and all of a sudden I said, oh, no, I don't want to be any part of this, so I just shut it down. Mm-hmm. And then I think there was an intermediate time. I went on Twitter for a while. That was intriguing, but there's not a whole lot you can say there is a lot you can say with 140 characters, but after a while, the sense that everyone coming in they were all beginning a conversation, and there was no chance really to develop it. And so I said, well, that's not working for me. So I dropped out of there, and then for a long time I just had this one page up, and there was nothing you could click on the page. It was just a picture of the Messiah, or old ragged dog-eaten copy of the Messiah's handbook, and it must have been terribly frustrating for people who did want to say hello, just to go clicking around and nothing happened. But
searching and searching.
Finally, someone said, "Well, give it a try. Give it a try." Because I'm such a reclusive soul, and in part, and then the direct opposite too. This other part that wants to reach out and say, "Is anyone there?"
Yeah.
So that's where the website came from, and it has been a fascinating time, and so far it's going very, very well.
So it's been a joy. You've been really enjoying it, the website.
It has been.
And tell me, of all the books that you've written, Richard, let's start from the beginning. What was your first book?
First book was called Stranger to the Ground.
Yes.
And that was a story. That was when I was flying in the Air Force as recall during the Berlin crisis, and my National Guard squadron was sent to France, and we were flying F-84s there. And it occurred to me that no one had ever told a story really of what it feels like to be flying this 26,000 pounds of super high power, and they had all kinds of armaments and that kind of thing on. No one talked about the tender relationship between a pilot and this thing that seems to be just steel and iron and fire.
Yeah.
But in fact, there is a very sensitive, delicate relationship. The airplane makes sounds, for instance, strange little sounds. You get used to those sounds, and you say, it's just an odd little quirk of the airplane. And every once in a while, it'll make a sound that you've never heard before. And you're flying along in the cockpit, you're maybe in a 4-ship flight or something like that. You just start laughing. Never heard that one before. And the airplane has a personality. Every airplane, I think, does have a spirit. And it occurred to me now how much time we have, because this is going to go an hour just on this one story.
Richard, we appreciate your time.
Well, I thought, at one time, there was one flight I had in an airplane. I walked away, landed and walked away in the night. And I said, why is it that we pilots have such a sensitive love for you airplanes when we know that you're all on a blueprint and you're just steel and aluminum and nuts and bolts and you're just a thing.
Yeah.
And I walked away in the dark, and then I heard this voice in my mind that said, why is it that we airplanes have such a love affair with you pilots?
Oh.
Because after all, everything about you is written in an anatomy book, and you're flesh and bone and blood.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just stopped me cold in the night to hear that sense of the spirit that was saying, it's not our externals that matter. It's not what the anatomy book says. It's what's in our heart. It's what's in our spirit. It's what we yearn for.
Yeah.
To express the very highest spirit that we can, no matter what form we have.
Absolutely.
So,
I was thinking, as you said that, love with the aeroplane, it's your vehicle that you fly through life with. It's like your body is your vehicle that we fly through life with. And we're in love with our bodies, so why not be in love with our car or our aeroplane or our boat or whatever is, taking us on this journey through life. The feeling of flying must be absolutely incredible.
It is. It has stayed that way for me. I've been flying for, I just realized, about 55 years.
Yeah.
and it's the same thing every takeoff. It never gets old for me. Always just this wonderful sense of perspective. It's a literal perspective, but it turns into spiritual perspective too, because you're looking down on Shakespeare's stage, and you're seeing, oh, this is the planet. Here's the mountains, here's the lakes, here's the rivers, here's the seas. This is the place I've chosen. And there's something about being in the air, looking down, that reminds us, and reminds me, and I've talked about with other pilots, they have the same feeling too, of what it was before we were born, when we were pure spirit, and just kind of moseying around the planet and saying, well, maybe I'd like to live a lifetime here, and disembodied, free to go anywhere we wish, watching the sights from this wonderful perspective. It reminds us, flying airplanes, of when we were, as we are right now, pure spirit. And that reminder, being able to melt one's body into the body of an airplane and become a new creature, is continuously fascinating for me.
It is, it must be. I love flying, I have to say. I love being up in the air, absolutely love being up in the air, and I always ask for a window seat, and I always look out the window the whole time I'm in the plane.
I think I'm a little that way too. I keep concentrating on the flap movements, what's actually happening as well. Do you think flying, Richard, is also like being in the moment, that you also have to be right there in the moment in certain aspects as well?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful metaphor. Just from the very beginning, in order to fly an airplane, you have to trust what you can't see. And how true that is of our lives, too. There are principles. In aviation, it's called the principle of aerodynamics, that will, if we adhere to them, we follow them, we're given all of a sudden this wonderful gift of perspective and speed and freedom and joy. Well, there are principles in life, too. We can't see them with our eyes. But if we hold an attitude, if we claim, I am a perfect expression of perfect love here and now, gradually that sinks into us and we shift our identity from body to spirit. And when we do that, remarkable things happen. That which we hold in our thought is mirrored forth in our environment, in the world around us. And at first we kind of blink our eyes, we can't believe what's happening. As I hold this in my thought, it comes true in my experience. And I've been playing with that idea for, 40 years now.
I know.
And I've done it in the crassest possible ways when I've said, I'm in the middle of Los Angeles, and I'm going to see a giraffe. And so I close my eyes, and I have make a very, very clear picture of the giraffe, and the little whiskers and the great big brown eyes, and the little modeled. See that very, very clearly. I let it go, and I start my watch.
Yeah.
And I wait, and I see how long it takes.
How long it takes,
in the middle of downtown Los Angeles, I think it took 17 minutes. I was driving by this place, and they had it was a department store. They had these huge show windows. And for some reason, the theme, as I was driving by, happened to be Darkest Africa, and they were selling the safari jackets and all that kind of thing. And here was this enormous 14-foot tall stuffed giraffe, a toy doll giraffe. And I just burst out laughing. I said, oh, come on. I also did it in Minneapolis. I did it with alligator. In the wintertime, and I thought, okay, alligator. And I was walking to a talk that I was going to give, and they have these sky bridges in Minneapolis where you can cross even in the middle of winter and stay warm. And they have shops along there. And so I happened to walk by a shop that was selling shirts that were very popular at that time, which were called alligator shirts. And their little thing was, their logo was an alligator.
Yeah.
And then they had this huge 12-foot alligator that was hanging right in front of their doorway. And so I went to that talk. laughing. It works in the crassest way, and it works in the most subtle ways too.
It does.
If we say, I know I am being led to find my family, and that those meetings will touch and change my life and change the lives for the positive of those whom I meet. And sure enough, hold that in our thoughts.
Yeah.
And by coincidence, I believe, I've given up my belief in coincidence. I now call it the principle of coincidences, because you can count on it. Some coincidence will happen, and we will meet someone in the most casual and most unusual way and discover that in an important way they've been looking for us.
Absolutely.
And we've been looking for them. And we find that we share these wonderful values, and they may live on the other side of the world, but we're in touch with them for years thereafter.
I count on it too. I absolutely count on it, and I count on it with every conversation I have. Is that what you say before you go to your talks, that I found my family and we're going to... Is that what you say to yourself before you give a talk?
Yes, I say that I don't know what I'm going to say, but I've come here with a gift, and I will know seconds before I have to say it, whatever I need to say. And very often, that the family is a theme that so many people share. My talks are just, for the most part, just question and answer.
Yes, exactly.
And so there'll be a question or a comment, and sure enough, it will lead right to the heart of the really important search that we all have for someone who to show us by their very being that we're not alone on this planet.
Yeah, we're all connected.
We see so much in the television news of all the wicked things going on. It's been, I don't know how many years ago, it was September 11th of 2001 that I turned off the television. I don't have a television set in the house.
Really? You turned it off on September 11th? Isn't that interesting?
Yes, because I knew we were going to see the pictures of those buildings collapse 30 or 40,000 times, and once was enough for me.
Yeah. I have to tell you something.
I suddenly realized at that point, I don't have to let all that negative stuff into my consciousness. Simply don't need
You don't have to. Well, that's why we present this Accentuate the Positive radio show. It's to put something different out there, to put something more positive out there, so people have got something joyous and meaningful to listen to. It's
that's such an important gift to give.
It is.
Because otherwise, if you overdose on this stuff that's poured out of the media, if you go to movies in which each one is trying to have a bigger explosion than the next one, you say, what am I on the planet for? What am I bothering to be here?
Yeah.
But as soon as you shut that stuff down, then all of a sudden you recognize that the birds aren't aware of any of that. The deer aren't aware of any of that. The fish in the oceans aren't aware of that. The trees aren't. And you go for quiet walks in the countryside instead of being glued to a television screen. And you say, hey, maybe this world is not quite so bad a place.
Exactly.
And then as your thought changes to accept that suggestion that the world isn't all wicked destruction, then sure enough, examples will come to you of just wonderful, as you say, and accentuating the positive values and the positive events that are going around us all the time, heretofore unseen, blocked in the fog that comes from some media director's idea of this is what's going to catch their attention, and then I can sell something to them.
Richard, do you think there can be a universal shift in our understanding around the world without it sounding like, some answer or some question from a beauty pageant? Is there hope for being able to transform the thought of the human population?
I don't have a clue.
Good answer.
And what matters to me, it doesn't make any difference whether the world changes. What's important to me, what's important to each of us as individuals is how does our world change?
Exactly.
And that's something we can work with. We don't have to change any mind at all.
Exactly.
We need to open our mind to this radical possibility of what would happen if we change our thoughts, even in the face of what seems to be wicked events in the world. Just simply keep affirming, I am a perfect expression of perfect love here and now. I will see only the effects of love. And I will be part of this wonderful sharing of gifts between those of my family whom I've met and those whom I haven't yet met. And as we do that, and it's the odd, counterintuitive thing, because usually if we see something wicked, we say, oh my goodness, this is terrible, and this is bad, and so forth. And see something wicked and say, I refuse to accept that as my truth of what is this world and what is my family. And I know that I have a spiritual life that far transcends this momentary illusion, this belief of our life in space-time as all there is. It's an interesting adventure. It's like in space-time is like going to a movie.
It is.
And I think there are lots and lots of life forms in the universe that don't particularly enjoy space-time, and they don't have any experience in space-time at all. But we, little otters of the universe, we happen to love it. We love the action and adventure and the drama, and most of all, we love overcoming difficulties. If we look at the games we play, and every game we play is based on a problem. Yeah. Some of the problems are amazing. A simple game of table tennis, okay? Well, we're just batting a ball back and forth. No, you're not. This sphere is coming at you at a certain angle, at a certain speed, with a certain spin. It's going to hit the table in a certain place. Where are you going to move your paddle, and at what angle, and at what speed, in order to return it with this low orbit over the net in such a way that it might be able to outfox your opponent, who will do all the things that you've been doing but miss. Wow, that's something that even now they're barely teaching robots to play very simple games of ping pong.
I know.
We humans do it for fun.
We do it for fun.
And if you look at any other game we play, whether it's chess, chess is a wonderful example. Problems really involve difficult, complicated problems. We do it and we call it fun. And so it is with even the lifetimes we choose. We choose the problems that come to us, I believe.
Yeah, we do.
We choose every event. We choose every important person in our life we've had contacts with before, positive and negative. And we're here to express love. I think that's the question we'll all be asked when we finish every lifetime. How well did you express love?
And as you say, Richard, we've all got our own movie. We're all the writer, director, and producers of our own movie called Our Life, and we can create anything we want. We can create this illusion we call life. It can be magical or not, depending on where we put our focus.
That is so true. I had an email yesterday from somebody in India, a student in college studying law. Okay. And he said, I think I want to kill myself. I don't see any point in living at all. And it used to be that your books would help me, and now they don't. Now I just think it's all pointless.
Right.
And my response to him was, what a wonderful opportunity you've got. If you're willing to kill yourself, then you're willing to make decisions that you never would have considered before.
Yeah.
Drop out of school. You can ship on board a sailboat or on a cargo ship and to take on a whole new personality and allow yourself to be led by whatever it is you most want to do. And don't care about what your parents are saying. Oh, you should be a lawyer. Don't care about what anybody says. It doesn't make any difference what they say. And you write me a letter 10 years from now and tell me the adventures that are happening that start tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got this thing back from him. I said, thank you. I will.
Oh, fantastic. Richard, you're celebrating a birthday this coming week, I believe. 76
years.
I'm
not.
No?
I'm not at all.
Oh.
Karen, no. I do not celebrate birthdays. I do not count years. I don't believe it, not a bit.
Right.
I think it's dangerous to do that. When we're little children with 6 and 7, here's a birthday cake and a candle, and everyone gives us presents, and that's so nice. But there's a hook. There's a hook in that birthday cake, and the hook says you count your life by the number of years you live.
Ah.
And when you're 7, when you're 10, when you're 15, you read in the paper. I don't know what papers are like in Australia, but in the United States, your last name is not a name, it's a number.
Yep.
It's Timmy Smith, 9, or Mr. Timothy Smith, 85. And you notice that those numbers are your real families. Well, if you have a low number family, bad things that happen to you are always avoidable. Timmy Smith, age 7, ran out in front of a trolley car and was squashed flat. Well, okay, I won't run out in front of a trolley car. But then you notice that if you're in a high number last name family, then there are unavoidable bad things. Mr. Timothy Smith Sr. died today of terminal boredom. Right? There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So I decided when I was, I don't know, many, many decades ago, I decided I was not going to play that game.
Ah.
And I recognized when I was a kid, I felt like a grown-up.
Yes.
And when I'm a grown-up, I feel
like a kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the answer
Hallelujah
is
to
that we're ageless.
Yeah.
We are not counted by our age.
Yeah.
And that's my short answer about celebrating.
Oh, look, that's so true. I have a girlfriend. When I was a kid, I felt like a grown-up too. I wondered why people kept treating me like a kid. But my girlfriend's 4-year-old son said to her the other day, "You know, Mummy, I have thoughts just like you do. I have thoughts just like an adult." And I just said, isn't that beautiful? It's just so beautiful.
That is fascinating. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And we remember that time, too.
Yeah.
That time sometimes chafing at childhood. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to get out there in the world. I want to see the results of my thinking. I
Yes.
want to plunge myself into these adventures. I don't want to be harnessed by this attachment. I have everyone looking at me because I'm short. They're looking at me like I'm a child. I'm not a child.
Yes.
And,
yes.
and of course, that childhood understanding is absolutely true.
Oh, look.
I believe we've all had many lifetimes. We've
Yeah.
all been adults, and however many times we took our fancy, thousands, millions, each time a learning experience. And each time we play this game, okay, you'll start out as a child, people will call you a child, but within there's that voice that says, I am not a child, am not.
Mm.
And we just kind of grit our teeth and hang in there until all of a sudden it's the other way.
Mm.
People are looking at us and say, oh, well, you're a senior citizen. No, I'm not. I'm a kid. I
Yeah.
have adventures, and I'm continuing my adventures this very moment. And our
Next,
family understands that. Someone of another family who doesn't share that belief, they don't get it.
Yeah.
They simply don't get it. And that's okay. You just shrug your shoulders and say, all right, well, that's the way it is for me.
Richard, do you have a plan for a next adventure, or maybe you don't make plans, but what's on the horizon?
Right now, I'm in the midst of a book. I've just flown a little tiny seaplane from the Atlantic to the Pacific across the United States continent, about 3,500 miles, and it took 2.5 weeks to do it, and I was in the company of another guy with the same kind of airplane, so we flew two-ship formation all the way across the country.
What fun.
And it was fascinating because this is not a Boeing product. It's a home-built airplane, and it can land virtually anywhere. It lands on water. It lands on land, needs about 400 feet to take off the ground and 400 feet to land. We'd land on the Mississippi River, land on the Red River, landed in reservoirs at Lake Mead. We flew through Death Valley up to Mono Lake, Mississippi, Florida, the Gulf Coast. We flew over nearly a storm at sea. We looked down in the Gulf Coast. There's some little islands there. We looked down. The whole place was full of sharks. We said, oh, my God, I hope the engine doesn't quit here. And we landed in absolutely abandoned places, no one around. We landed in a lake in the desert, Pyramid Lake, north of Reno, Nevada. And there was a geyser. As we were flying over, we saw this geyser coming up. And we spun down and landed in the water, taxied over the shore. And there were no signs. There was no geyser, $7.50. There was nothing that explained this is a geyser. It was out in the middle of nowhere. And we walked over, and it was just constantly going. And my friend, the other pilot, was a geologist, so he was telling me how this thing worked, and it was just amazing to see. It's not an attraction. It's not a human event. Before we came and after we left, even as I speak, that geyser is cycling cold water into boiling water just, 70 miles north of Reno, Nevada, and no one is watching.
Oh, really?
That just touched me. So that's kind of the essence of those little events, those adventures in sudden understanding that come from flying this little machine. And that's what the book's going to be. It's called Travels with Puff.
Fantastic.
After I got the airplane and flew it for a little while, she finally told me her name was Puff. She's like a cloud that's almost there, and her spirit is, but you can't see her, and call me Puff, she said. So I had this conversation conversation with the airplane as well as with my fellow pilot all the way across the country. And I watched her learn, too, as I learned. And so we became very, very close. And it's such an unusual experience. And I'm on about chapter 35 now, or about 54 chapters.
I know you talk about Puff like a new girlfriend or a new lover. It's beautiful. It's like,
I am crazy about Puff.
You're so in love.
In my life, I have owned 40 airplanes.
Yeah.
And Puff is the one that is as closest to my heart.
Yeah, like a grandchild, sort of like a new favorite grandchild.
So very close.
Yeah.
And she has her own fears and her own joys, and she had her concern about me when she met me because she'd been built, and her first owner landed her in the water wheels down, which is the last thing you want to do. So there's a big crash. And Puff was then rebuilt to brand new. Her second owner said, I don't want any instruction. I don't need any instruction in this airplane. He took off his first takeoff, and he ran into a tree, smashed the wing. So Puff was once again lovingly rebuilt. And here I come along, her third owner, and she's saying, oh, my God, what are you going to do with me? So we started out on this diffident sort of relationship. And and there were some times when she felt, oh, no, not again. And I've been flying my whole life, but this particular little airplane has a special little personality. And she's got places you don't want to go with her and other places in which she's absolutely amazing. Across the country, we're getting to know each other, and she's telling me her fears, and she's overcoming her fears. I'm overcoming mine simultaneously. And by the end of the trip, we are really, really good friends, and we're a good working team. And that's not unique. I think that happens to a lot of people, as you say. If you're out in the outback with an automobile and your life depends on that engine to keep running, you develop a pretty close relationship with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a joy. It's such a joy to speak with you. I can't tell you how great it is. And Jane has a question that she'd like to ask you.
Yeah, Richard, you found your joy, your love and ability to express love through not only flying and this love and joy that you have for Puff and the other planes that have been with you through your current time in this illusion, I guess, without saying lifetime, I suppose, to be able to find, for someone that perhaps is still on that search for what their meaning is or for what their purpose and finding that path. Is there any words of encouragement that perhaps you could offer?
Piece of cake. Simple, simple. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what do I love more than anything else in all the world? Is it some kind of sport? Is it some kind of thinking? Is it writing? Is it business? Is it advertising? Is it painting? Is it dance? Is it whatever? And even though it seems that there's no possible opening for us, I have observed in my own life and the lives of everyone I know who is leading a happy, fulfilled life, decided at one point that they would go toward what they really wanted to do. I know account executives from Madison Avenue who gave it all up because they wanted to sail a boat around the world. And one wrote me with a postcard from the Canary Islands, saying that that's exactly what he had done. He had discovered what he loved. And here he was, going through difficult times and storms and all that, but that was the life that he chose. So the critical point is choose a lifetime. Don't allow someone else to hand you a lifetime or someone else to require you. You must do this or I will be hurt. We run into that with parents all the time. It's not the child's job to make the parent happy. It's the parent's job to be happy with the child's choice of something joyful and wonderful and brilliant that they can do. And if there's a block there, it's the child's job to say, I'm sorry, I must walk my way. And if someone is in the situation where they say, but I don't know what I love, that's a difficult point.
Yeah, I guess it's that.
And I don't know what to say. You get the leftovers from the people who are doing. Then you get a job. Instead of a calling, you get a job.
You get a job. What I would say to that, Richard, is people ask me all the time, but I don't know what I love and I don't have a passion. And what I say to them is, you do, you just don't think you can make a living from it. Because I have to say, my passion when I was young was reading these types of books, yours being amongst my favourite. And I never thought I could make a life from reading self-help spiritual books. But here you go. I'm making a life out of it. So
a way will open if you trust it. A way will open, most likely by coincidence, and you will find there is a way to survive. And it's a test. And in writing, for instance, it's a cliche that you, for a while, you spend your time as a starving writer, and I delivered telephone books. I was a letter carrier. I was a golf ball picker on a driving range. I was a draftman for a boat building company. I was a technical writer for an airplane company. I was a flight instructor. I was a barn surveyor. All these things while I was writing, until finally I overcame the writer's worst obstacle, which is self-consciousness. What will people think if I don't write something that's acceptable? And finally you realize it's your craziness. That's the gift that you have to give, is your very own unique way of looking at the world and thinking about the world. Don't smother it. That's what's going to make you, that's going to be your living. Yep. And sure enough, that was so, and gradually I was able to discover that, and gradually I discovered I could survive writing.
And I guess it's also about making sure that you have that space within your life, that quiet time that you can actually hear that very quiet voice that's either telling you or guiding you to what is the thing that is bringing you joy, or the things that you find that, yes, actually, this is something that I really, truly love doing.
Wildly important. The most important words have been said in this last hour. You just said them, Jane. This is just to have that space. How can you hear the still small voice in the midst of all the racket of everything else going on? If you give your attention to the world, it will drown out that quiet voice that says, this is the way. Walk this way. Just try it and see what happens. It's so important. Yeah.
Wow. I'm a little in awe because, as I said earlier, that little quiet voice spoke to me quite a number of years ago to follow this path of being on radio, doing stuff on radio, and it was almost like this spiritual force pushing me from behind, saying, come on, keep going. And I kept saying, okay, I will. And I journaled whenever things come up in my mind, and I had said, okay, universe, if this is truly what you want me to be doing, bring me Richard Bach. And I've written them down, and I have documented proof. And I shared one of your books with KAren Swain, who presents Accentuate the Positive here on FM 99.3. And this is how this communication started. For whatever reason, it seems to be that around this time August last year, or whenever it was last year, that you decided to go back online. And and here's KAren contacting you, and I'm sitting here talking with Richard Bach, and I am just amazed at how my synchronicity isn't quite as fast as your giraffes.
A question about that you asked me before.
Well, when you're dealing with reclusive souls, there is a short delay. That's true. Let
me ask you a question about that quickly. Why are you reclusive? What's that about?
What a great question that is. Because I don't physically have around me very many members of my family.
Is it just because of the location?
I much prefer my own company and the company of people who are characters. They may never have had a body in space-time, but they're really important to me. The characters in my little Ferret Chronicles, 5 books about a culture that always lives to its highest right. I love those little characters. I don't know where they came from. They somehow just appeared before me and said, write this story and write another one, write another one. And so the books are out there, and very, very few people
I'm reading them.
They even exist.
They're wonderful.
But they're important to me.
And it's called the Ferret Chronicles. Go out and buy them today. The Ferret Chronicles.
If you can find them, you can find them. They're all collected in one book called Curious Lives, and then they're the separate books too. So
And they're
And
beautiful.
you have them, you say?
I have right on me, right here, Rite of Ferrets, Chasing the Muse, and that importance.
Oh, my God, you've got Writer Ferrets. You must have the only copy on the continent.
It's from the library here in Chatswood.
Well, talk about coincidences. Everything I know about writing is in that book with Bud Ron Ferret, who wants to write the great ferret novel and discovers why that's not going to be, that his strength is not writing great, sophisticated literati novels. He writes for kids. He writes for young ferrets, and they love it.
It's the most
And he finally comes to understand that's what it's like, and that's his joy. That's what he really likes to do, not this sense that someone else has pasted on him that he has to be this great literary writer.
Yeah. And it's called The Ferret Chronicles.
Richard, I would say it would be one of the books that perhaps encapsulates quite a number of the messages that you want to communicate to the world, and also in a form that is so gentle and so instructive for the younger generation too, to just share and to be able to get a sense of what you are trying to express, but in a way that is very gentle and open.
Yeah. Well, the books were written for a young person to read to their parents. That was kind of my hope.
Yes.
And it would be kind of a way of a communication from one generation to the next of the possibilities of what if we did choose to live to our highest sense of right at all times? What if we never put someone else down? What if always we saw the best in them and lifted them up?
Yeah.
What would a culture be like that didn't waste time on death and destruction?
Criticism.
And so the Ferret Chronicles don't have many big explosions in them. There are no bad guys anywhere. And yet these little creatures love action adventure. So what's a life-affirming action adventure thing to do? Why, you can have your own rescue boat in the Ferret Rescue Service. When a ship goes down, there's a Coast Guard and Coastal Patrol to take off the humans. Well, who rescues the ship's mice and the ship's cat?
Yeah.
Well, the rescue ferrets do, of course. And they risk their lives. They're out there in storms risking their lives to save others' lives. There's action and adventure for you with a wonderful purpose and a great sense of accomplishment. Risk your life and actually make it and bring home 130 bedraggled mice from a ship that's gone down, all in their little rescue blankets and all praising the great mouse that you were there to come and save them.
Richard, I got a sense when I was reading Rite of Ferrets, Chasing the Muse, that there was almost the little ferret was talking about how he was writing one book and then found that he needed to go and write a different book. And has that been the way that a lot of your books have also come to be to life?
So it's very, very true. That sometimes I'll be writing a book and not even knowing it. Oh, well, this book of it right now, Travels with Puff. I thought that I was just writing a little journal for a few people who happen to be following my website because they thought it was kind of interesting and cute. They're not flyers. I have very few pilots, I think, in my little web family. But they seem to enjoy it, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, well, this is such a dear little machine, and the relationship that I have with it is such a sweet one. Why not? Why not make this a book? So I'm in the midst of doing that now. I'm adding a whole lot, and a lot of thoughts that I didn't have time to write at the time. I'm doing that. I'm cutting out some of the more technical stuff that was in there at first. But I love the little book, and I had no idea 3 months ago that I was going to be writing this book. You're absolutely right. Serendipity.
With the Ferret Chronicles, did you write that for children?
No, I write that for an inner me. I write to have in print something that I would really love to read.
Right.
And in the oddest way, Sinclair Lewis said it in the 1920s, when I want to read a good book, I'll write one. And I have a similar feeling because I don't find there's a whole lot of books that are tilted toward stories about living to our highest sense of right and being able to find action and adventure and do it in a really positive, life-affirming way instead of a life-denying way.
Yeah.
So those books come because I just yearn for that kind of world. And if I don't find it outside of me, well, I'll find it inside
of me.
I'll create that world. And then I'll invite to it anyone who wants to have the same kind of gentle adventure that I enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I'm running a competition on the show at the moment asking people to submit a book idea because I'm giving away a workshop. Hay House is giving away the writer's workshop. So people listening to you, hopefully they're inspired to write down their inner world and send me a synopsis and the title and be in the running to go.
Oh, what a wonderful idea. That's a magnificent idea.
Yeah, it is.
Because each of us has a gift to give to the world, and we can give it in many ways. And those who are drawn to writing have stories within them that are yearning to be expressed.
Absolutely.
And with practice, as Budgeron Ferret learned, it's just a practice, a matter of writing 1,000 words a day, every day of your life. As Ray Bradbury taught me that, every day of your life, 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And he said that if you write a 7,000-word short story every week, your first year you will write 52 short stories, and one of them will be sort of good. None of them will sell. One of them will be sort of good. Second year, you'll write 52 short stories, and 2 of them will sell, and 7 of them will be pretty good. And he's saying you'd find quality through quantity. And I didn't believe him because Ray Bradbury was my favorite writer in all the world.
Wonderful.
And I went back and I read one of his very first stories. And I felt this thrill go through me because it was awful.
Oh.
And I thought, my God, he's absolutely right. He turned into this transcendent writer just by writing out, getting rid of all that self-consciousness and just becoming so free and easy with his idea, trusting the idea. And he told me, so we became friends later on in my life, and he said, put this above your computer, put these words above your computer. Don't think. Stop thinking. Just let the characters run. Watch the characters run. So don't think about plot. If they're running over a field of snow, they're footprints of the plot. That's what they leave behind. And so over the years, I've added 2 things to that. I put have fun in front of the don't think. Because if you as a writer are not having fun, how do you expect your reader to have fun with your story?
Absolutely.
Don't think. Thank you, Ray Bradbury. And then the last one that I put was don't care. Stop caring about what other people will think about this. Stop caring what you think about it. Just write the story. Let it fly. And then later on, you put on a different hat as an editor, and you say, well, let's see, what are the rules of grammar that I'm going to break with this story? And you choose which rules those are going to be. And then out comes this unique story that only you could have written. And I would say that to everyone who wants to be a writer, that you have gifts within you that no one else has ever expressed. Don't try to copy anybody else, because the original will invariably be better than you. You can never be better than Ernest Hemingway at being Ernest Hemingway. But Ernest Hemingway could never be you. He didn't have your experiences, your adventures, your loves, and your fears. All those things together are what make you a unique soul in the world and make your gift, the stories you tell or the articles that you write or the books that you write, make those unique. That is your gift to your time. Other writers write for their time. You write for your time.
Wayne Dyer said, I'm not going to die without getting all my music out of me. I love that. I want to get my music out of me. I have a good friend who is a lovely lady called Kate who does angel paintings, and she says that the angels inspire her to paint the paintings. And then one time I was having a chat with her, and she said, my paintings have completely changed. I'm painting furiously and easily, and it's really a different experience. And I said, well, what do you think's changed? And she said, well, the angels said to me, we're holding back your fear.
Oh, yeah.
We're holding back your fear.
Wonderful. Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. I believe in her angels.
Yeah. She didn't put any wings on them. She said, the angels don't want me to put wings. They said they don't have wings. She's gorgeous.
To develop the capacity that Kate has to accept an idea as it comes, no matter how unusual it is, angel without wings, sure, absolutely, and fly with that idea, knowing that you're original, knowing that you're unique, and that's the gift you have to give. What a wonderful story that is.
I can't tell you how synchronistic this conversation is, because I had a client yesterday and she's a professional and she puts herself out there as a professional and it's not really working. And the conversation was all about authenticity. Fly, be authentic, be imperfect. Put yourself out there, warts and all. And she was scared to do that. It's like she was scared to actually get her real music out of her. She's presenting what she thinks people want and not what she believes. And it's such a synchronistic conversation, because it was just all about this yesterday. It's just beautiful. Don't you love the way
that is a learning experience?
And
she is living the consequences of that. And it's as long as she works from this is what people expect and I must do that, then she'll have a limited success.
Yeah, absolutely.
When she lets that go and says, this is my song.
This is my song.
I will sing it no matter how strange it sounds to someone else. Wham! All of a sudden, that song is going round the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so true. I've noticed that with everything that's big on the internet. Some people are putting out crazy stuff that you don't want to know about, but there are millions that do. Jane wants to know if we can be a part of your crazy family.
I'm sorry, but you already are.
Oh, that is wonderful news. We're putting ourselves up for adoption.
You have found your home. All crazy people, all people in love with some aspect of this wonderful lifetime, they're all part of that family.
And thank you for sharing it with us, Richard Bach. It's just phenomenal, and really appreciating your time as well.
What a pleasure.
Now, have you asked everything you wanted to ask him?
I never want to hang up, but I know that...
No, but there was a question about doubt that you wanted to ask him about.
I think I've eliminated all my doubts.
I know, she had a million questions to ask you, and you've been talking, and I think you've just answered any question she had posed in her mind, actually.
Yeah. And I guess this is the question that Karen's referring to. Do you ever need to test? Do you ever doubt things? Do you ever need to test things?
The universe,
life?
That's an excellent question, and I think that comes with practice in practical spiritual living. Mm. You start out and you have doubts.
Yeah.
Is this crazy thing? I'm claiming something that I can't see with my eyes. I'm claiming that it's true for me here and now when I can't see it. Mm. So you have those doubts when you start. After a while, it's like flying an airplane. You start out and you have doubts. Is the principle of aerodynamics going to hold me up, or is the airplane suddenly going to fall? Mm. And then the more you learn, the more you realize that airplane isn't going to fall.
Yeah.
And as you become one with what we call a machine, then your spirit is in control, and it just becomes this loving thing, and you never doubt again. You know what to do in every circumstance involving the airplane. So an old-time pilot doesn't have doubts. We'll look, we have experience, we have judgment. We'll say this weather is so violent, I'm not going flying in that weather. There's a maxim in flying that it's much better to be on the ground wishing you were flying than to be flying and wishing you were on the ground. And you learn that from experience. But there is an erasure of doubt that comes, I think, in any calling. Seasoned writer, a seasoned painter, a seasoned dancer, a seasoned actor won't have that kind of doubt. Here is my take on what this character will be. Someone else may have a different take. Someone else may say these lines differently. But I see the character this way. And as they do that, the character then becomes their interpretation. If you look at Casablanca, the movie Casablanca, and you see Claude Rains there as the French inspector, and you can't imagine anyone else doing that because he so gave himself to that role. He did it so perfectly by letting go, doubt-free, and sure enough, it became a classic. He wasn't thinking, I'm going to make a classic character in a classic film. Nobody thought it would be a classic film. But everything worked, and everyone in that cast was doubt-free. And that worked.
Yeah.
And so it is with us. No matter what we approach it, if we approach it with love, we get self-consciousness out of the way. We're not dealing with ourselves. We're dealing with an idea that sings through us. And once we get that out of the way, it's not me. I'm being used by some spirit, some loving spirit, to communicate something in some way. And it can be everything we do is communication. No matter what our calling is, it's communication of some kind or another. It's a gift that we're giving. And as we see it that way, then self-consciousness vanishes. We say, I'm in service to the spirit that's called me. And it's called me through that which I love to do. And you practice that for a few years, and there's no doubt left anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to do it, it's going to be good.
There was some point where I had a thought, whenever this physical existence is going to finish, there's going to be a moment where I'm going to go, oh, that's what it was all about. And it meant that I was relieved from this constant, what am I meant to be doing? What am I meant to be doing? Why am I here? And there was almost like this moment of just letting go of the why, the what, and just being, and then concentrating on keeping quiet just for a moment any given day.
That is so true. And we can learn that. We don't have to wait until that moment. I totally agree with you that there is a time after we leave this mortal life, which we look back, we say, that was my mission. I kind of screwed up here, but I did really good over here, and I did express a lot of love in my lifetime, and that's well done. A favorite study of mine is death and dying, so I've got shelves and shelves of books on near-death experiences, for instance, what people are recalling, and it's so often with this sense of great perspective. At the moment you leave your body, and we leave our body, we look back at it dispassionately. We're not, even if it's something violent, that someone who's been in an automobile accident can be out of their body when watching their body, perhaps writhing on the street, and just totally dispassionate. Oh, so that's the coat I wear this lifetime.
Yes.
And it looks like I'm leaving it now. And very often, as you know, if you read that material, we're led in a certain direction toward a light, and we're given a choice. Do you want to go back, or do you want to stay here? And we have that choice. And obviously the people who are writing about their near-death experience are the people who said, I think I need to go back. I have a young child that I'm very attached to, and I want to shepherd her through this lifetime. Or that I have my work to do. I've got my mission to perform. And so we'll wake up and all of a sudden maybe in terrible pain and belief of pain, but with this lingering memory, I chose to come back. I'm not done with this lifetime.
It's so interesting, Richard. I have a friend who has since left this lifetime, but she was one of the ones born thalidomide affected. Do you remember in the 60s the thalidomide children?
Yes, I remember that, yes.
And she died several times during her life because she was quite a sick little girl. She got to 40. The doctor said she wouldn't reach 6, but she managed 40, and she drank and she smoked and she had tortured love affairs, and she had a wonderful time, and she died a couple of times. And I said to her, what brought you back, Nick? What kept bringing you back? And she said, I don't know, just one more adventure. Even though she was sick, she was deformed, physically deformed. She said, I don't know. She said, the first time my mother said, please don't go. So I said, okay. And she came back and she said, the next few times, she said, I don't know, just one more adventure. Nothing too profound, but so profound,
What a beautiful encapsulation of the choice that we've all made.
Yeah.
We come here for the adventure, for the fun of it, and for the learning. And our show must go on.
The show must go on. The show must go on. Oh, God. We could talk to you all day, couldn't we, Jane? We could talk all day, and we've been yakking for over an hour now. We have to...
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
The time just flies by when you're just in the moment.
When you're having fun.
When you're having fun, Well, thank you so much. What a pleasure it's been talking to you both, and it's just wonderful to know that you're there, and for you to know that we're here too. Your family is everywhere around this planet.
Brilliant.
Have you ever been down to Australia?
Yes, I was there in the early 70s.
Oh my God!
I was there in Sydney, Melbourne. Then I went out to a little place to the west where there's an airstrip. I flew a Tiger Moth. Great fan of Neville Shute. And,
yes.
And his books are just fantastic.
Yeah.
Trustee from the Tool Room, Round the Bend, On the Beach, of course. But he wrote 23 just magnificent books.
Yeah.
And so Australia is kind of a mystical, magical sort of Shangri-La for me, both from my memories of the gum trees and little koala bears up there. And
when are you coming
association
back,
with that.
Richard?
Karen and I are building an airstrip. Okay, so we're getting our shovels right now. We're walking outside. I'm getting a pick. She's got a shovel. I'll organise a bulldozer. We are
I feel the magnetism.
We are building an airstrip, and we would love to welcome you and Little Puff and any of your family
you
who would like
sweetheart.
to bring with you.
You little sweetheart, that is so dear of you. Thank you very much for that invitation. I will not decline. I'll just watch what the universe decides to offer me as a new game to play.
Yeah.
And if it's Australia, that will be great fun. That will be great.
Fantastic.
I loved your country when I was there, and I have this wonderful memory, these wonderful images of being there.
Oh, darling, what a joy. What an absolute joy. Thank you so much, Richard Bach, for talking to Jane Arakawa and myself, Karen Swain, on Northside Radio FM 99.3.
Well, thank you, Karen, and thank you, Jane. It's been a wonderful hour. If you insist, it's been an hour. It's been a wonderful hour.
Almost an hour and a half now.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much.